why BYD started this war. BYD set a sales target of 5.5 million vehicles for 2025. But in the first 4 months, they sold only 1.38 million cars. Also, BYD holds just 7.4% of the market in the key under €12,000 segment. They want to grow big in this price range. Their goal, clear the market. BYD wants to speed up consolidation and be among the few survivors. So, let's translate that. It wants to kill off its competitors. That's what it's trying to do. Now, I've seen this a couple of times. I've seen this in a lot of headlines recently. And we've got here, Wei Jianjun, founder and CEO of Great Wall Motors, says there's already an Evergrande in the automotive industry. It just hasn't collapsed yet. Evergrande was a huge Chinese real estate company. It went bankrupt in 2021 with 300 billion in debt. The crash hit the Chinese economy hard. Now Wei is drawing parallel to the auto market. He suggests some car makers are building their business on huge debt. BYD felt directly accused. They announced legal action against anyone comparing them to Evergrande. BYD's PR chief, Li Yunfei, defended the company's 70% debt ratio. He pointed out that Ford, Boeing and Toyota have similar levels. These look like recipes for disaster to me. Problems destabilizing the Chinese market. The Chinese auto market faces 4 major problems. 1. Overcapacity. China's auto industry can make almost twice as many cars as it sells. Factories run at just 49.5% capacity. There are 3.5 million unsold cars in inventory. 3.5 million! Those wanting to keep production lines running cut prices. A vicious circle. 2. Desperate cost cutting. Manufacturers, cost cutting. Manufacturers, dangerous. In the automotive industry, cost cutting, dangerous. In my opinion. Manufacturers must cut prices at the same time. They need to protect their thin margins, so they cut costs everywhere. Cheaper parts could damage safety. The made in China image could suffer. It couldn't suffer anymore in my eyes. Honestly, it couldn't, especially where batteries are concerned. Suppliers under pressure. BYD took an average of 275 days to pay its suppliers in 2023. Suppliers effectively became banks. They were using suppliers' money to make their cars, in effect. According to GMT research, BYD's real debt is around 39 billion. Officially, they report only 3.3 billion. The difference comes from delayed payments to suppliers. Here we go. 4. Zero mileage used cars. Car makers sell new vehicles to finance companies or dealers to meet sales targets. These cars then appear as used cars with 0 miles and discounts of up to 40%. Pre-reg. They're doing it in China. But if they have a 3.5 million car surplus, it'll be more than 40%, I'll tell you. Oh, in fact, let me just say, they then appear as used cars with 0 miles and discounts of up to 40%. So the people who are selling them, what they're going to be getting, 60%. This makes sales numbers look better than they are and messes up pricing. Consolidation is starting. Of 169 automakers in China, more than half have less than 0.1% market share. This can't last. Bank of America analyst expects a bloodbath this year. According to the China Association of Automobile Manufacturers, only 5 to 7 dominant brands will remain. The government steps in. Now the Chinese government is taking action. They ordered the CEOs of over a dozen automakers to Beijing. This included BYD, Geely and Xiaomi. The message: no selling below cost. No inappropriate price cuts. End zero mileage car practices. Fair treatment of suppliers. The response came quickly. 17 Chinese automakers promised to limit their payment terms to 60 days. This applies to all the major names, BYD, Geely, Chery, and also startups like NIO, XPeng and Li Auto. The government also worries about the reputation of made in China products. State media warns that cheap cars could hurt Chinese exports. I'm just wondering how many cars there are, to be honest, and how many zero-mile cars have been vertically integrated. Competition shifts from price to technology. With extreme price cuts, price is no longer a differentiator. Everyone is cheap. So competition moves to the technology. Again, we've discussed this before. Chinese brands offer high-quality tech for low prices in cars under 12,000. You'll find advanced driver assistance systems. I don't want it. Premium features like cooled seats. Yeah. High-end infotainment and AI features. I don't want AI features. Infotainment, good speakers, a good unit. You can't get any better than that. This puts foreign brands under double pressure. They must compete on both price and technology. Well, no, not really. The more things you have on a vehicle, the more things there are to go wrong. And the other thing is that things go wrong that you don't use. Like, for argument's sake, in the UK, rear electric windows. They go wrong because nobody uses them. So they seize up. And then they don't repair them. So they come into a dealer like me, and then somebody comes to buy it and they test the back windows and they say, well, the back windows aren't working. Right, okay, we'll fix them. So 300 quid aside for a motor that's seized up. We put 600 quid worth of motors in, probably 150 quid of labour. And I can guarantee those people will never use it. You'd be better off having wind-up windows in the back. I can kind of get why you'd have an electric passenger window. If you're pulling over and asking directions, fair enough. I get why you have a driver's electric window. I don't get why you have rear electric windows. I really don't. It's just a waste. The amount of money I've wasted in the motor trade repairing and replacing rear electric window motors, honestly, I could retire again with the money if I got it all back. Anyway. Export pressure is rising. The overheated Chinese market forces manufacturers to export. So, in order to try and make money, they have to stick us with them. That's what they're saying, isn't it? Already 20% of the vehicles made in China go abroad. That's an 11% increase from last year. Pressure keeps rising. We've got 3.5 million. What are they going to do with them? Pressure keeps rising. The US market is closed due to tariffs. Japan and Korea may follow. Russia is becoming more difficult as an export market. Now, I read somewhere before that Russia have clamped down on Chinese vehicle sales. That leaves Europe. What this means for Europe, the EU introduced anti-subsidy tariffs on Chinese EVs in October 2024. Now talks are underway about minimum prices around 35,000 and quotas. But even with tariffs, Chinese cars will remain cheap. An example, the BYD Seal costs $12,500 in China. With a 45% tariff, that's $18,125, still only half the price of a Tesla Model 3. For Europe, this means export pressure is growing. The tougher competition gets in China, the more manufacturers will look for new markets. Europe tops the list. The price war will spread to Europe. We should expect falling prices and fierce competition. What we're seeing in China isn't normal competition. It's survival of the fittest, the long-awaited consolidation. Of the roughly 170 Chinese auto brands, only 5 to 7 will survive. This has 3 consequences for traditional automakers. 1, in China, pressure on foreign brands will keep rising. Those who can't match price and technology will lose market share. What about if they make a good car? What about if they make a good car and they've got a great reputation and they've been around for years and years? Because, you see, that's what I'd go for. I'd go for a car. Now, I'd go for a car. If I could buy a basic car, kind of like a Dacia, but not as ugly, with wind-up windows, I've gone for my Citroen Ami. My Citroen Ami's got flip-up windows. Got nothing in it. Nothing in it. I've put a heater in it. So, You may be sat there thinking, oh yeah, Baz, of course you would. You know, you used to drive around in Range Rovers. I don't anymore. I drive around in a Citroen Ami and I love it. In Europe, export pressure from China is growing. The question isn't if Chinese cars will come, but how many. They keep saying that. They're not selling. They're having to discount them over here. You know, all the UK motor trade press is blowing sunshine up their arse, and they're still not selling. So they ain't getting it all their own way. I'm not so sure about the EV early adopters. I was going to say the UK consumers aren't stupid, but it appears there are a few. For strategy, legacy manufacturers can't win a price war. They're also behind on technology. They must focus on other strengths: quality, safety and reliability. That's this chap's opinion. I think it's pretty good. I think it's pretty accurate. What do I really think? Financial Times. Chinese car makers' price war is putting the industry balance sheet under strain, a Financial Times analysis has revealed, as Beijing demands more action to protect suppliers in the world's largest car market. Current liabilities exceeded current assets at more than a third of publicly listed car manufacturers at the end of last year, according to FT calculations, based on their most recent financial report. Well, I thought that was trading insolvent, and I didn't think you were allowed to do that. Liabilities exceeded. Perhaps you're in China. I didn't think you were. I'm not an accountant. Don't shoot me. The weakening liquidity picture highlights how China's leading car makers have been forced to squeeze suppliers to maintain working capital and fund their fight for market share amid heavy discounting. The dominant electric vehicle maker, BYD, is deepest in negative territory with its working capital, followed by rivals Geely, NIO, Ceres and state-backed BAIC and JAC, while the total net current assets of 16 major listed Chinese car makers fell to, I don't even know what that is, but it looks like RMB 104.3 billion, $14.5 billion by December 31st, a 62% decline from their RMB 290.5 billion peak in the first half of 2021. The car industry analyst at CITIC Securities said a decline in net current assets indicated an increasing rate of cash consumption, with liquidity risks as the number turned negative. Given the current downward trend, China's auto industry is expected to enter an industry-wide elimination phase in 2026 at the latest, he warned. During the process, some companies will die of liquidity crisis. Total working capital at major Chinese car makers has declined, with BYD showing the largest deficit. Net current assets, RMB billion, 16 listed passenger car companies in China. Now, that's source Bloomberg, FT calculations. That's zero. So if you're starting at zero and going down, I'm not an accountant, but to me, when something's in red and it's minus, I don't think it's a good sign. Correct me if I'm wrong. You EV shills, you'll probably tell me I've got it upside down. Red's a good colour, you know, like Gordon Gekko, red braces. Red's a good colour. Yeah, I've got a mate and he has a saying, and if he can't make it out or anything like that, he says, oh, I'll have to put a red line through it. China's Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, the country's top automotive regulator, said in a statement it supported the association and would expand its efforts to prevent a rat race and unfair competition. It's hard to do anything in the domestic market, complained an executive at a state-owned car maker, who asked to remain anonymous. Well, yeah, of course he will. We'll be locked up. Everything is fiercely competitive, leaving a brutal and bloody battlefield. China's car industry runs on empty as supply chain bill go unpaid. What did Cole say? China nears peak oil demand amid extraordinary EV sales. A surge in the adoption of EVs will lead to crude consumption falling within 2 years. Proof that EVs are delivering the change they were designed to. If I could eat his head twice, I would do. In fact, do you know what I want to do? I don't know. The motor trade. Do you know the funny thing? And it makes me laugh every time I look at it. It makes me laugh every time I read it. Here we go. Collins pinned post. Pinned. An awful lot of debate around electric vehicles does seem to boil down to people who've never owned an EV telling EV owners what it's like to own an EV. And do you know what? There's a saying in the motor trade. 90% of the people who aren't in the motor trade don't know they aren't in the motor trade. Wow, it used to be in the game. Fuck off. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.